I did everything for my parents. They're leaving everything to my brother. Hi, Reddit. I honestly don't know how to even start this, so I'll just go straight in. I, 25F, have a brother, Alan, 33M, who's what my parents like to call a late bloomer. I've always just seen him as someone who never launched. He's never been particularly bright. I don't say that with malice, just honesty. Alan struggled through high school, barely graduated, and never attempted college. My parents encouraged him to find a trade, so he tried welding school first, and later auto mechanics. He dropped out of both. He now works part-time at a gas station and still needs help paying his rent some months. Growing up, things between Alan and me were relatively balanced. Our parents, Carol and Mark, were the tough love type. They always said they wouldn't hand us anything and expected us to make our own way. I took that seriously. At 18, I enlisted in the Navy. It wasn't easy, but it gave me discipline and the GI Bill, which I used to get my associate's degree. I'm now working on my master's while holding down a full-time job. My husband, Josh, and I just bought our first house last year. It's been hard, but we've worked for everything we have. Meanwhile, my parents, the same ones who made me pay my own way for literally everything, have been propping up Alan for years. They pay for both his trade schools. They've loaned him money more times than I can count, with no expectation of being paid back. They even helped him cover rent 3 months ago. They don't even ask for an explanation anymore. He calls, says he's short, and they send cash. The thing is, I wouldn't even care so much if they helped us both. But they didn't contribute a dime to my wedding. They didn't offer support when I was busting my ass working nights and doing online school. They didn't even help when I was homeless for a short while after leaving the Navy and before starting my new job. I had a couch surf with a friend. It's not about the money. It's the blatant disparity. One child was told, "Life is tough, figure it out." And the other was told, "We'll soften the world for you because you struggle." Recently, the final straw landed. My parents sat us down and let us know they were drafting their will. They're both in their 60s and in poor health. My dad has heart issues, and my mom's been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's. So this was a big conversation. They told us they'd be leaving almost everything to Alan. The house, the savings, the car, even family heirlooms. They said, "We trust you to make your own way, Jess. Alan needs a safety net." Then they asked me to be their medical power of attorney and to manage their estate when the time comes. I laughed, actually laughed. I said, "So let me get this straight. You're giving him everything, but you want me to do all the hard, emotional labor when you're sick or gone?" My mom looked hurt. My dad said, "We just need someone responsible. Alan can't handle that sort of thing." I told them if they trust him enough to leave him everything, they should trust him to take care of them, too. I said they could count me out entirely. I'm not their caretaker, and I'm not their executor. My mom started crying and begged me to have some grace. She said, "Your brother is disabled, Jess. He can't survive on his own." I said, "He's not disabled. He just doesn't want to try. And you made it easy for him not to." She said he's been tested for every learning disability, and he just has low intellectual function. She's convinced that qualifies as a disability. The room got so tense you could feel in your skin. I left. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, things have been cold and awkward. My mom called this morning asking for a ride to her doctor's appointment. She can't drive anymore due to her Parkinson's tremors. I said, "Call your favorite child, or pay for an Uber." And I hung up. Alan called me later. He was quiet and said, "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I don't want you to be mad at me." I told him, "I'm not mad at you. You didn't do anything. I'm mad at them for pretending to love us both the same when they clearly don't. I feel like a monster some days. Other days, I feel like I'm just setting boundaries." So, Reddit. Ada, Update 1. After I told my mom to call her favorite child for a ride, the silence from my parents was deafening. No guilt trip, no calls, no texts. For the first time in my life, I think they realized I meant it, that I was really done. Later that week, I got a message from my dad. "Your mom's not well. We're both under a lot of stress. Please don't shut us out." No apology, just a reminder that they were stressed, that they were hurt, that they needed something. It made me sick. I stared at the text for hours. I didn't respond. A few days later, Alan texted again. He wanted to meet up for coffee. I agreed, but only because I wanted to look him in the eye and finally say what I'd been holding in for years. We met at this little cafe near where I work. He was already there, sitting outside with a hot chocolate, looking nervous. He stood up when I arrived, like we were strangers. "Hey," he said quietly. "Hey," I replied. I sat down. He did too. There was a long pause. He began, fumbling with his sleeve. "I didn't ask them to do any of this, Jess. I never wanted to come between you guys." I took a deep breath. "I know you didn't. I'm not mad at you. I never was. I'm mad at them. I didn't even know about the will until they told us both. I was just as surprised." "But you didn't say no," I said sharply. "You didn't say, that's not fair to Jess. You didn't say anything." He looked like I slapped him. What was I supposed to say? There are parents. They think I need help. They think you're fine. "I am fine," I snapped. "But that doesn't mean I deserve nothing. I didn't climb out of the mud so they could pretend I never needed help too. I went homeless at 19. I slept in my car and ate peanut butter for dinner for 2 weeks. Where were they then?" He didn't say anything, just stared down at his hands. "I'm the one who called every Sunday. I'm the one who drove Mom to appointments for the past year. I'm the one who brought groceries when Dad was in the hospital. And they're giving you everything. You, who can't even make it through a month without calling them for money." "I didn't ask to be like this," he mumbled. "And I didn't ask to be punished for being capable." We sat there in silence again. I didn't cry. I refused to. But my voice cracked once, and I hated that it did. Alan finally whispered, "Do you hate me?" I blinked. "No, but I don't trust you either. Not with them. Not with what they're doing. I don't want to be the reason you don't talk to them," he said. "You're not," I replied. "They are. They made their choice. And I'm making mine. I left first." He stayed sitting there, looking like a lost little boy. After that conversation with Alan, I tried to move on. I told myself I'd said my piece, made my boundaries clear, and that was that. But something kept gnawing at me. It wasn't just the will or the money or the logistics of being their backup plan while he got the safety net. It was older than that, deeper. I started remembering moments I hadn't thought about in years. Little cracks in the glass that I had learned to ignore. Like the time I came home from boot camp. I was 18. Hair shaved short, face lean, voice steady for the first time in my life. I walked through the front door, exhausted but proud, thinking maybe I'd finally earned their respect. They hugged me. My dad even teared up. But within 10 minutes, Mom was back to fretting about Alan. He had quit his first trade school by then. Said it was too hard. Wasn't showing up to shifts at the grocery store. My mom was calling him sensitive. My dad was shaking his head and saying, "Boys mature slower." Meanwhile, I had just passed military survival training, and no one asked how I felt, or the time, 2 years later, when I scraped together money to fly home for Christmas. I remember walking in and seeing a brand new Xbox under the tree. Alan was 25, still living at home. My gift? A $20 Walmart gift card. They laughed about it. "You're never home anymore, Jess. What do we even get you?" I remember smiling, saying, "This is fine," like it didn't bother me. It did. It always did. I was never the squeaky wheel, never the one who needed fixing. I handled my own school paperwork, drove myself to job interviews, filed my taxes at 17. They never had to worry about me. And instead of that being something they celebrated, it was something they punished. That's the thing that stings the most. I didn't resent Alan back then. I just wanted to be seen too. But every year the gap widened. Alan got new chances. He got sympathy, softness, safety nets. You'll figure it out. When I got engaged to Josh, we kept things simple, courthouse, dinner with close friends. My parents didn't offer to help, not even with the dinner. When Alan got a cat last year, my mom called it the best thing that ever happened to him and offered to pay the vet bills. A cat got more support than my marriage did. It sounds petty. I know how it sounds. But when you grow up being the strong one, the dependable one, the "you're fine, she's fine" one, you start to realize that being capable doesn't earn you love. It earns you responsibilities. Responsibilities like medical power of attorney, like managing the estate of people who never truly showed up for you, unless they needed something. And that's why I finally snapped. That's why I said no. Because I've been the safety net my entire life. And no one ever caught me. Update 2. It didn't take long for the rest of the family to find out. Apparently, My mother couldn't help herself. She told my aunt, her sister, that I had abandoned the family and left them to fend for themselves in their time of need. She made it sound like I slammed the door and vanished, like I hadn't been the one hauling her to appointments, picking up prescriptions, sitting quietly while she cried in the car about her diagnosis. The calls started rolling in within days. My Aunt Trina left a voicemail that started kind and ended in guilt-tripping venom. I don't know what's gotten into you, Jess. Your parents are in pain, your brother is struggling, and you're acting like it's all about money. I thought you were the mature one. Mature. That word hit like a slap. I'd been hearing it since I was 12. You're the mature one, Jess. You're the strong one. You're the one we can count on. Translation: you're the one we'll lean on until your back breaks, then blame you for walking away. Josh could tell something was eating at me. He sat beside me on the couch while I listened to the messages and said nothing. You don't have to let them talk to you like that, he said. I know. You're allowed to say no. I know. I didn't cry. I felt nothing. Or maybe too much to feel anything clearly. Just this swirling mixture of rage, sadness, shame, and bone-deep exhaustion. Later that night, I got a text from my dad. We never thought it would come to this. You've always been our rock. We don't understand why you're turning on us now. And there it was, turning on us. Not setting a boundary. Not refusing an unfair burden. Just betrayal. That's what it felt like to them. After everything I'd done, I stared at that message for hours before replying. You only saw me as the rock because I never made you uncomfortable. Because I didn't ask for help. Because I handled everything on my own. That was convenient for you. Now that I'm saying no, suddenly I'm the problem. No response. Not that night. Not the next day. The silence was louder than any argument. Josh said something that stuck with me. It's not that they don't love you. It's that they only love you in the role you've played. Now that you're stepping out of it, they don't know what to do with you. He was right. I was useful. Predictable. The capable daughter who would always say, sure, I'll help, even with resentment buried under every word. I was the emotional scaffolding of the family. And the moment I took a step back, the whole thing started crumbling, and they blamed me for not holding it up anymore. I'm not angry every minute of the day, but I am grieving. Grieving the parents I wish I had. Grieving the daughter I tried so hard to be. Grieving the family I thought would eventually see my worth. And I don't know what happens next. Update 3. It was a Tuesday when the call came in. Middle of the workday, in the middle of a meeting. It was the hospital. My mother had collapsed at the grocery store. A bystander called 911. The ER nurse told me she was stable now, but had been disoriented, slurring her words, possibly a Parkinson's-related episode. My father had driven himself there, but wasn't answering calls or asking questions. The nurse said, "You're listed as her medical power of attorney. We need your input." And just like that, the boundary I had drawn so carefully was tested. I sat in my car in the parking garage, gripping the steering wheel like it might fly away if I let go. I had told them no. I had told them I wasn't doing this. I had told them I was done. But I hadn't filled out the paperwork to remove myself from their legal documents. I hadn't changed anything, because some small, broken part of me was still waiting to be wanted, not needed, not used, but wanted. I texted Josh. She's in the hospital. They called me. Do you want me to come? No. I don't even know if I'm going yet. But I went. I don't know if it was instinct, guilt, or conditioning, probably all three. But I went. She was awake when I got there. Groggy, her face pale against the stiff hospital pillows. My dad was sitting beside her, silent, holding her hand like a scared child. He looked up at me like he'd seen a ghost. I didn't say anything. I just stood in the doorway for a moment, watching. Mom blinked slowly. "Jess, you came." I wanted to scream. Of course I came. That's what I do, right? That's what I've always done. Come when no one else will. Fix what no one else can. Be the grown-up in the room while everyone else gets to fall apart. But all I said was they called me. I'm still on your documents. My dad cleared his throat. We didn't know who else to list. I almost laughed. I looked at him, tired and scared and still somehow so clueless, and I realized he wasn't apologizing. He wasn't rethinking anything. This wasn't a moment of revelation for him. He still believed everything they did made sense. "I'm going to talk to the doctor," I said flatly. "After that, we'll figure out next steps." He nodded. Thank you. I turned and walked away before he could say anything else. I met with the doctor, made sure she was stable, signed off on observation for 24 hours, made sure they had a backup contact for discharge. I didn't hold her hand. I didn't cry. And as I left the hospital, I pulled out the form to remove myself as medical power of attorney. I'd been carrying it for weeks. This time I filled it out. Because here's the truth. You can love someone and still say no. You can show up in a crisis and still walk away afterward. You can carry someone in an emergency and then put them down for good. That night, I told Josh everything. And then I dropped the envelope with the form in the mail. It felt like grief, but also like relief. I'm not the family's fixer anymore. And that has to be enough. It's been 3 weeks since the hospital. 3 weeks since I mailed that envelope. 3 weeks since I officially, legally stepped out of the role I never agreed to, but was born into. I haven't heard from my parents since. No calls. No updates. Not even a passive-aggressive forwarded article about family loyalty from my mom's Facebook page. Just silence. At first, I kept checking my phone, half expecting something. I thought maybe I'd feel relief. I did, but it was mixed with a strange ache I couldn't quite name. I told Josh one night, I feel like I buried someone who's still alive. He just pulled me close and said, "You did." Some days, I catch myself thinking about what they're doing. Whether my dad's managing the medication schedules, whether my mom's eating right, whether someone is checking in on them. Then I remind myself, they chose this. I didn't leave in a rage. I drew a boundary. I walked away because they showed me I was a tool, not a daughter. And then, today I got a message. Not from my parents. From Alan. Just a plain text. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. The last time we spoke, I made it clear where I stood. And he didn't push back. He didn't defend them. He just looked broken. A part of me pitted him. Another part resented him for sitting quietly while I was always the one to fight, to sacrifice, to carry. I didn't respond right away. I took a walk first. No music, no distractions. Just me thinking. Alan is a complicated person. Not malicious. Not scheming. Just soft. Sheltered. Taught to believe he couldn't stand on his own, so he never learned how. And part of me wonders if this message is him trying to learn, or if it's just another pull of the same old rope, the one that always tightens around my neck when I reach out. Eventually, I replied. About what? A few minutes later, his bubble popped up on the screen. About Mom. About the will. About everything. I think I finally understand. That stopped me cold, because in all our lives, Alan has never once claimed to understand. He just floated through things, passive, agreeable, lost. I don't know what he means. I don't know if I want to find out. But something in me, curiosity, hope, stupidity, wants to hear him out. Not for them, but maybe for me. Because if I'm really going to close this chapter, maybe I need to hear what the other side of it sounds like when he's finally the one doing the talking. We met at the same cafe as before. Alan was already there again, waiting outside with his hands shoved into his hoodie pocket like he was bracing for a storm. I parked, sat in the car for a minute, and stared at the entrance. Part of me wanted to drive off, to let this chapter end in silence, to leave the last conversation as the last. But a bigger part of me, the part that still carries invisible bruises from a childhood of being second to his struggle, needed to know what he had to say. He stood when he saw me like last time, but this time his eyes didn't avoid mine. "Hey," he said. His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. "Hi." We sat. No drinks this time. No small talk. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. I talked to a lawyer. That caught me off guard. What? I went by myself. I didn't tell Mom or Dad. I asked about the will, about what it meant, about what it would actually mean to get everything. And he swallowed. It scared the hell out of me. I said nothing. I thought it was some kind of safety net, you know? Something to catch me. But it's not. It's just a pile of weight I'm not ready for. And I realized, I'm 33 and I've never handled anything on my own. Not really. I looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't posturing. He wasn't defending them. He looked ashamed. And maybe for the first time in his life, self-aware. I didn't ask for them to give me everything, he said, his voice quieter now. But I didn't stop it either. And I think maybe part of me liked it. Being needed. Being the one they worried about. Because worrying is the closest thing they ever gave to love, I said. He blinked. Yeah. It was a long silence. He kept talking. I started thinking about you. About everything you did that no one ever really thanked you for. You always made it look easy, Jess. You just handled everything. So I didn't think about how hard it was. I didn't think about how alone you must have felt. I wasn't just alone, I said. I was invisible. Alan nodded slowly. I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't ready to forgive him. Maybe I never would. Not fully. But hearing him say it, without defensiveness, without shifting blame, meant more than I expected it to. Then he said something I didn't see coming. I'm giving it up. What do you mean? I told the lawyer to change the will. To split everything 50-50. Or more to you, if you want. I don't care. I don't want it to be some prize for failing. My throat tightened. I told Mom and Dad too. They weren't happy. But I told them if they wanted me to grow up, they had to stop treating me like I couldn't. Did they listen? He laughed bitterly. Not really. But I said it anyway. For the first time in a long time, I felt something shift inside me. Not closure. Not healing. But maybe the start of something that could be. I'm not coming back into the family, I said. Not like before. I meant it when I said I was done playing the caretaker. Done being the glue. I know, he said. And you shouldn't have to be. Another silence. Then I stood up. I don't know what happens next. Alan looked up at me. Neither do I. But I want to figure it out. On my own. Maybe someday with you. But only if you want that too. I nodded once. No promises. No grand reunion. Just a small, quiet truth between two siblings who finally stopped pretending. And for the first time, it felt like I wasn't carrying it all alone. Final update. It's been 4 months since that last conversation with Alan. We've exchanged a few texts since then. Nothing dramatic. No tearful, sibling reconnection. Just human connection. Simple, honest. He sent me a photo last week. A picture of a small notebook. Inside his budget. Written by hand. First time I've done one of these without Dad. The text read, I know it's basic, but it's mine. I didn't cry, but I smiled in a way I hadn't in a long time. My parents never reached out again. Not after I stepped down officially. Not after the will was revised. Not even when they found out Alan had gone to a lawyer without telling them. I heard through Aunt Trina that my mom called it a betrayal. I guess being treated fairly feels like betrayal when you're used to favoritism. And that's okay, because I've finally stopped trying to rewrite the story they gave me. I've stopped trying to earn what should have been given freely. Respect, love, acknowledgement. I don't need an apology to heal. I don't need a family dinner to prove I'm over it. Sometimes closure isn't a door slamming shut. Sometimes it's just the moment you realize you've stopped walking toward a house that was never open to you in the first place. I've started therapy. It's not pretty. I'm learning that I equated value with usefulness. That I kept trying to perform worth in school, in service, in adulthood, hoping someone would finally say, you've done enough. You can rest now. Now I say that to myself. Josh and I are planning a trip to Iceland, my first real vacation in years. I didn't ask anyone to house sit. I didn't explain my absence. I didn't check in with family first. I just planned it. For me. For once, I'm not the daughter, the backup parent, the fixer, the rock. I'm just Jess. And that's enough.